Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Shadowverse. Today is Monday, June 21st, the beginning of the 48-hour period that they describe as Amazon Prime Day. So today's going to be probably a fairly short experience as I sort for shopping lists through massive shopping lists of massive things. A lot of stuff on Prime Day is really not much on sale, and it is really just an excuse to buy things you've been waiting on. This year in particular, I had things that I had saved into my save for later shopping cart, and I went through that list and saw what was on discount and finally pulled the trigger on that. But yeah, there's still a decent amount of stuff I'm trying to keep an eye open for, so that's going to be taking up most of my time for the next I would say not 48 but 36 hours in the few brief periods in which I'm not sleeping, or with the exception of the few brief periods in which I am sleeping, I guess is the correct way to say that. Which, yeah, means over the weekend I've failed, I think, to register on this. Yeah. Yep. I totally failed to just play at all. So if you were going to even have a chance to potentially be one of the winners that would win 500,000 or 50,000 gold, like, I've completely dropped the ball there. And then at a certain point, I just can't care enough about Shadowverse for that to really be an issue. Private match. We have how much time? 12 minutes? Alright. Once again, we have to immediately come over here and try to join a private match, which the only way to actually join a private match is then to jump over to Discord on my phone and look at the private match sub-Discord and see if anyone is going to be helpful. Let's see, we'll just have to create a Take-Two deck. We don't even know what we're going for, so we'll just go with Dragoncraft, and we will... You know what? Let's just save ourselves some time. And, like, it's not like we know what we're doing anyway, so let's just grab all of this. What would have been really nice is if these private matches, at least for the first private matches, let you keep these cards instead of the Take-Two All-Stars really not being anything of any real use. So, yeah, I don't know if it's really even that useful to speed through here, though, because you have the other player taking their time. I did continue to play Left 4 Dead 2. I finished the Parish scenario, which looks like that is the last scenario of the first group of scenarios for Left 4 Dead 2. And then it weirdly, in the way it's listed, has you play the last scenario of Left 4 Dead 1, then it has you play all the other scenarios of Left 4 Dead 1, and then at the very bottom are two other scenarios that are new, one with the new Left 4 Dead 2 characters, one with the Left 4 Dead 1 characters, which just seems a little weird, but whatever. So I have about 3, maybe 4 hours of gameplay left for Left 4 Dead 2. I will say the Parish is way, way better than any of the other scenarios, and Left 4 Dead 2 is better than the scenarios that were in Left 4 Dead 1. The gameplay mechanics and the code of Left 4 Dead 2 is an improvement. That being said, I just listened to a Major Nelson podcast talking to the creators of Back 4 Blood, which is the spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead. And it doesn't seem like, from what they were talking about, much has really changed in the 12 years of development. It's a weird thing, certainly, because I am not the target audience. What I want for Left 4 Dead 2 is Resident Evil 4. What Left 4 Dead 2 is offering is much closer to something like a multiplayer game with zombies, and that's just a different scenario, certainly. Okay. What is it? Neither one of those seem like they'll do damage.
Embrace the sea. Vile dragon, repent your wicked deeds.
So yeah, it does feel like Back 4 Blood would probably not be much of an improvement. Okay. So at this point, if that's going to be set, then in 12 minutes we'll have to do that again, which is fine. We are now registered for this day. We should also register for that day in 12 minutes. So we're good. There's very, very little to say about Left 4 Dead 2, unfortunately. It's just running from point A to point B to sometimes in one scenario you ran back to point A, but otherwise it's all a straight line. The parish is the most varied campaign. You go to a lot of different places. It feels like a very natural flowing experience. It tries to even tell a bit of a story, but really not enough of a story. I guess we're playing Swordcraft today. They introduced the idea of the military bombing places, bombing a bridge, and that just doesn't go anywhere. There we go. What expansion is this that we get 10 free cards on? I would assume it's the latest expansion. It's not 10 free cards, it's 10 free packs, so that's 80 free cards. Seems like they definitely are trying to establish some standardization, just basic cards that everybody should have. At a certain point, though, they should probably just hand all the classic cards to all new players and old players alike, and then old players can dust those old cards if they don't want to play them, and new players can dust the old cards if they don't want to play them. That's easier than trying to feed the gambling addiction. But clearly, they want to feed the gambling addiction. All collectible card games, to some extent, want that. They want you to go through this card pack opening shenanigans so you can get addicted to it, and then you start to spend real world money on it. I think, in a small part, Prime Day probably also slowed down the video game news. But also it was a weekend, and also it was just E3 just happened. So we have basically no video game news at all. See, that was Storm Survival, I guess. That is not particularly the newest expansion by any means. And I think in this scenario, we are pretty much just kind of duty bound to save our gold. I could buy a pack here and that would be fine, but I kind of want to just build up my gold. I think if I don't act fairly careful here, we're going to have the next expansion and I'll not even have enough to buy 50 packs. And honestly, you probably should open up about 80 to anywhere as high as maybe 400 packs in the new expansion if you can do it free to play. I don't see any way you could actually get like that much gold in free to play. So yeah. Of course, the problem here is I would have to basically click this and see if we got anything new at all, even like a new animation or something. There was one new card I saw. Yeah, one animated card there. Or two. I suppose we could have gotten two of them. And that's pretty much it. Meanwhile, interesting that this does not let you liquefy. You could liquefy this since you have this temporary card, but it's gonna have you hold 3 of them anyways. That's weird. So at some point I might want to liquefy some cards and get a lot more dust, but it's probably not worth it at this point to mess with that. And yeah, there's even opening 10 packs, you can see there's still a collection of cards in this expansion, which is a fairly old expansion at this junction. So yeah, you're not likely to get full complete collections, even one of each card, just by trying or playing free. Swordcraft is what we want. We can't play Swordcraft. Alright, so we'll just select Forestcraft in here. And then we'll try and be a little bit better about picking cards when we do this, because this probably matters a little bit more. Let's see. We generally want cheaper cards. Because if you don't get cheaper cards, then you're going to end up failing fairly badly. Although, you also have a lot of Forestcraft cards that summon or spawn the cheaper cards themselves, so maybe not as necessary as it seems. So let's hop in here. I suppose what we'll try to do today is get through the news, and when we're through with the news, I'm going to just end the stream, even if we're not anywhere close to getting the daily quest done. It would benefit me certainly. Oh, we've got a new stage here. It would benefit me to play Shadowverse off screen anyways while I'm looking at streams, looking at Amazon sales. As far as Prime Day and video game stuff, there's some Nintendo Switch cases and chargers, although there's a danger in buying a third-party charger that I would suggest people not do that. Cases or carrying cases are fine, but not really any games and not any hardware. You get the same things that we've gotten for the past couple of years, as far as you might find a steering wheel. You might find some 8-bit though. I did see one of those sales is going to come up in a few hours, so I might grab that, but not a lot there. I ordered an external hard drive, and I think I'll get a micro SD card, and that's about it. Yeah. As far as Xbox and PlayStation, I'm not really looking at that, but I'm not seeing any major sales there either. Definitely not hardware, because if there was an Xbox, like an Xbox Series S or a PlayStation 5, anything like that on sale, that would be a fairly decent deal. Of course, that's yeah. But yeah, video game consoles have been in very high demand, so I didn't really suspect that they would go on sale. I'm very possibly going to end up gifting one to someone anyways, just because that's what they want, and it's not likely to get any cheaper anytime soon. Let's see.
I'll teach you all the steps.
Attack there and attack there. So do I have anything else to talk about? No. Yeah. Theoretically, if I find some extra time, I might work on the my RetroPie build. It occurred to me, I skipped over photos when I did the addition to do video and music, and I'm like, oh well, there is a built-in not particularly complicated photo viewer, so if you're gonna do that, you might as well do that. Ebooks are the ones that are really the difficult idea, or if you go even higher than ebooks, which is the comic book zips or CBZs. Those zip files that have comic books in them and are just collections of images, that'll take a little bit more work to go through, but it isn't too difficult. It's just making a command that temporarily extracts a zip file and treats CBZs or CBRs as zip files, because they're kind of a non-standard extension. And why you would want comic book zips is PDF, though you'd have to install another program. And honestly, I don't even know if RetroPie comes with Unzip installed on its Linux build. It probably does. It would make a lot of sense that it would have that installed. Oh.
Hey, let's play.
Interesting.
The hunt has
Let's go ahead and
only
just
begun.
evolve this fairy and kill that. But yeah, sorry, I stopped talking in the middle of a sentence. The reason why you'd want to play CBZs is that you could get, say, Nintendo Powers and other video game magazines and integrate them into a RetroPie setup that makes a lot of sense. Same is true for the music. You could get video game soundtracks if you're deep into that. Videos, I mean, video game related videos would also make a lot of sense. Yeah. Of course, that all requires more space and bigger external hard drive, which maybe that's what I'll use the hard drive for, maybe not. I'll have to start to decide what I'm really going to use it for. Let's see. Do we want to wait 2 turns? Or do we want to play this? Like that.
I won't let you get away.
Let's see.
So sparkly.
We'll play a little defensively here. So yeah, I might work on that project too. But honestly, that would take more time. And I can't be looking at the Prime Day sales and working on programming and trying to constantly catch up. I also need to schedule videos, and that would make a lot more sense to do that. So it's just very much snowed under, always snowed under as far as what I want to get done versus what does get done. I'll point this out as for YouTube. They have this article, meet these 4 pioneer LGBTQ plus creators from Southeast Asia. This was retweeted by Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube. And you don't have to really make any deep controversial political statements to say it's been a long time since YouTube has promoted anybody, and it's been a really, really long time, if never, since YouTube has promoted any content creator that isn't leaning particularly in an SJW direction. Which, I mean, and I don't mean that I expect them to promote a far right leaning content creator, although that would probably help their own image somewhat, but it would help them if they would just promote people in large numbers in general instead of playing the we get to pick the winners and the losers game over and over again,
Let's play.
which is what they seem to always want to do, is have a incredibly small selection of winners and everybody else dies. In fact, one of the subscribe channels I just followed
I am the fires of
did
war
one of those we need to talk videos where they're talking about how they're slowing down content creation and or changing the direction of their YouTube channel because they're just not succeeding. I would have liked my YouTube channel to succeed a little bit more than it has. I'd like to get enough subscribers to the point where no matter what, I could always get a few dollars a month. Like, ideally, I'd like it to pay the bills. I don't want to become super rich or anything like that. I don't think that's reasonable to suspect that ever would happen. Allied follower. Deal 3 damage to the enemy follower. we do this, and then do that.
Whoops. Guess I got too close.
Hey, let's play.
Then we can do that.
I know.
And then we can do that.
お任せください。光のご加護を。
And then apparently we cannot evolve because something else already evolved. But we pretty much won. Let's see. Game Sutra has an article here. Outriders made a good start thanks to the Xbox Games Pass. We're just going to try and burn through all this news. I think we had already talked about the relaunch of the Xbox Design Lab, so we can skip over that. There's a report now, according to Gamma Sutra, that the mysterious Switch error that halted downloads has been fixed for some users. Yeah, it definitely felt like that was some kind of background server error. Pokemon the trading card game, Sword and Shield Chilling Reign expansion has been released. I think we had already talked about that. I imagine there's some interest around that. And that was, I think, from envisioncommunity.co.uk. Same is true for this article. Postal 4 No Regrets gets a massive content drop. No Place for Bravery launches Q4 on Switch and PC. Gametsu has Kochira ha Naruhoshi Yoroi debut, which is a Yuri girl-on-girl romance visual novel. We'd already seen this one. And I think I may burn through all the news and games on Steam before I even finish this this arena run. Let's see. Gametsu says the Castlevania Advanced Collection has been rated in Australia. This includes Circle of Moon, Harmony of Dissonance, and Area of Sorrow collection, or at least that's the speculation. These all would have been Game Boy Advanced Castlevania games, which those are amongst the group of characters that need, let's just win, that have never been ported. That being said, I don't know
Looks like I won.
which of the Castlevania games people are super enthusiastic about. It seems like people are definitely enthusiastic about Castlevania, but if you actually made someone sit down and play all of them in a row, I think they would find that at least the Vita and the Game Boy games are not as good as some of the others. And honestly, with Castlevania, it would be so easy to just play
My
Bloodstained
quarry won't escape that
and
easy.
just
This world is
ignore
brutal,
all the
but
Castlevania games I haven't played, which is most of them. The only ones I played were the reboot Castlevanias that were in 3D. I can't even remember the name of them. Let's see. Gametsu has this week's Japanese game releases. Caligula Effect 2, Chivalry. This game, I'm not even going to bother to try and read that. Hamidashi Creative, Kenga Kimi for S, Legend of Mana, Super Mario Golf Super Rush. I didn't realize that was going to come out that quick. Nayuta no Kiseki, Rust, Samurai Warriors 5, Scarlet Nexus, Shiro no Kuro no Alice, Shiro 2 Kuro no Alice for Switch. Obviously a visual novel. Sugar Style, well, I'd assume that's a visual novel. Super Mash, Tennis World Tour 2 Complete Edition, and The Wicked King and the Noble Hero. And then we have some digital games. You can check out the list here if that interests you. It's a long list, certainly. Yep, even the subtitle says it's a busy week for new releases. Gematsu has Cyberpunk 2077 has returned to the PlayStation stores. Users may continue to experience some performance issues, so Sony and CD Projekt Red finally worked together enough to get it back onto the storefront and stop fighting with each other. A Mana Series 30th anniversary live stream is set for June 27th. ESRB has rated Death Stranding Director's Cut as an immature. This description I don't think is really going to tell you any big hint as far as what new is in Death Stranding. Let's see. Let's see. Gematsu has the Precision to Calvary, launches July 1st for the Switch, July 2nd for Xbox One, and very shortly afterwards for the PS4. Which we might as well watch any trailers we've got. MSRB with sexual thing. Is this a Monty Python style game? I think it is. And we've seen people try to do this before, and I'm not sure it works. Honestly, I think these little cutaway joke sections, even in Monty Python, only really worked because they were very brief intersectionals to the rest of Monty Python. And the true enjoyment for when there is true enjoyment for Monty Python is when interesting. I messed up there. Is the longer form skits, and arguably a lot of the longer form skits haven't aged particularly well as far as still being funny, as far as British comedy. A lot of British comedy, once you've seen it once, and then once you've grown 10, 15 years older, it stops really playing. At least for me, that's been my experience. Even my favorite British comedy, The IT Crowd, is incredibly hard to watch after the second time watching it, because it's just too memorable. Gonna do this,
This will be a voyage to remember.
and then do this.
Hey, let's play.
What does wooded brambles do? Deal 1 image damage to the follower.
The hunt has only begun.
On your left, smooth sailing ahead.
What is it you desire?
Let's see. Moving on, Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance cinematic launch trailer is available.
See them?
And again, we might as well watch everything because we're just gonna burn through the Steam games very quickly.
This power.
Part of the thing certainly was that on Friday I did not leave any games
Stop it.
over when I could have. I don't even have a bunch of tabs open for a follow list cleanup. So, yeah. It feels like this is a more cold area for a Dungeons and Dragons scenario.
I shall give birth to a new world.
I'm alone again.
Right. And then that pretty much just brings us to the games that we have on Steam. So here we have a game called Zagu Espionage. What I should track here is if Steam has a Steam sale coming on yet. This is a free game, English only. It's made by adults on the autistic spectrum. Sorry, I'm not gonna play a bad looking game just because the people that make it are on the autistic spectrum. I was gonna use a different phrase there, but I don't even know what the phrase I was trying to use, like differently brained or something like that. There's a new phrase, decided word, and obviously I should use new phrases until I figure out how to actually say it right.
I won't let you get away.
I will protect the peace of the forest. For the queen!
Is your judgment?
Hey, let's play.
Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called The Last Stand, which looks like an asset flip first person shooter. It's free, English only. I'm gonna go ahead and disable this and see if we can get to just Steam.
This isn't a game.
Steam's front page. Alright, well,
Nice marksmanship.
basically what it is the next fest doesn't end until tomorrow, so very possibly the summer sale happens the day after. I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of wait a week also though. So yeah, there isn't going to be any Steam sale until pretty much after the Amazon Prime sale, and honestly at that point I'm probably had blown my budget, so this might be a very difficult Steam summer sale for me, in which I'll have to maybe spend a lot less money than I had wanted to, because of the Prime Day sale moving around. I guess I can also tell people that if you were in the US and you had Sprint cell phones, there's a decent chance your Sprint cell phone will not work coming January 1st on T-Mobile, because T-Mobile acquired them and is now shutting down the CDMA tower service. Even the phones that would be half LTE and half CDMA seem to be not acceptable, because there's just half the time you may not be able to call even 911, let alone make any other phone calls. So the entire hardware is become incredibly disposable. And people sort of kind of knew that CDMA as a technology was not going to be adapted by AT&T and Verizon. Maybe if there had been some government regulation requiring people to use CDMA or support it, it would still have been useful. I also think the frequencies for CDMA and the technology for CDMA is not even used in other countries, so it's not even really a case of phones being able to be traded in and then sold in India or something like that. So yeah, I think a significant amount of phones may end up in the landfill. That being said, the Samsung Galaxy Followers Edition, FE, I think it stands for Followers Edition, is on a Prime Day sale for decent discount, not a great discount. I am running a bit of a risk because it's labeled as being a Verizon unlocked phone. So it's not labeled to work on T-Mobile, but it says it does, and a Google search says it does. So I may find myself in a very weird position where I have to send back a cell phone, a heavily expensive cell phone, just because I bought the wrong one.
Today is your
Hmm.
私がサポートさせていただきます。
But yeah, if you don't want the Fellowship Edition that allows you to have a micro SD card, if you don't care about that, the S21 is also on sale, which is a few months newer, but missing that one feature, and pretty much just that one feature. They both have gotten rid of the headphone jack, and yeah. There is a decent chance either somewhere around October or January that there will be an S21 FE edition. So, but there is also a chance that won't happen due to the chip shortage. So there's really no guarantee. And honestly, the S20 FE and the S21 are about the only Android phones I'd even recommend. And of course, Apple phones, you get the newest Apple phone, obviously. Newest model, whatever sizes are available around that.
This'll be a voyage to Rydo.
Moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Dungeon Knight, which just looks like a neon top-down twin-stick shooter for $9.99 English only. Here we have a game called Unlocked, which looks like a low polygon game, and nothing moves because time is locked. Feels a little too asset flippy to me to really feel like there's anything here other than just a almost walking simulator. They're calling it a collectathon. Yeah, there is something to the idea of the particularly concerned parent wanting a kid to play games but not have any violence. And maybe that's why we see games like this that have basically no action and look incredibly boring as flower picking simulators. This one's $2.99. But in my mind, that just does not work. First of all, I don't think there's any kids around that really enjoy that or will enjoy it for very long. And second, it is
There's no need to be shy.
just not really a realistic understanding
The hunt
of
has
what
only begun.
what the world of video games is. At a certain point, if you're a particularly concerned parent and you don't want them to play any violent games at all, you pretty much should just not have them play video games at all.
For a drink?
Seriously. Here we have a game called Fluffy Cubed, which looks like it's a box pushing game, 62 cents English only. Here we have a game called Retexo Mori, which looks like a early 90s PC game.
Stop it.
Kind of Doom
Stop
clone
it.
maze game. They're calling it a bullet hell, but I'm not even seeing bullets being shot. $4.24 English, allegedly full audio.
It's rain now.
Yep, nothing there of interest. Here we have Haunted Hotel, a past redeemed collector's edition from Big Fish Games. We've been seeing the Big Fish Games has been lowering their prices for their hidden object games. In all fairness, if you did want a kid to play a less violent game, or a less action-based game at least, hidden object games I guess would work, but then most hidden object games do have a bit of macabre and murder and mystery in them. This is back up to $12.59. I thought that they might permanently that they might have permanently decided to lower their prices. Would have been nice.
My interests piqued.
I never forget.
I won't let you get away.
Do you not feel on the breeze?
Did you want it?
Yeah. Next we have a game called Puzzle Light, which just looks like a Pipes clone. Positively reviewed, 69 cents. English only, 50 achievements.
Stop it.
I guess the question really comes down to how many levels are here. 50 levels. That's a little too low. And this interface is a little too simple, so I'm gonna skip it. Alright. Can we accelerate anything? 2, 1 here to start with. And then hoping this is enough.
All the steps. Hey, let's play. お任せください。光のご加護を。
Okay. Do I have enough to save myself here?
This is the
I
end.
think I do.
The dance hall awaits. Dance with me.
If I attack that and then do that. If he can't do some major damage to me,
Stop it.
then might actually win here.
Nice marksmanship.
Nope, he was able to win. Yeah. 2 quick victories makes you think you might have an actual chance, but in all actuality, they put you in a higher rank as soon as you win a victory, so your odds of getting 5 victories becomes exponentially more difficult, because if you have 4 victories, you're playing against other people that have 4 victories. Next we have a game on Steam here called Storybook Brawl, which looks like it is a Hearthstone clone, but I don't know if that inherently means it will be bad. It's rated mostly positive, it's early access, free to play with in-app purchases. Third-party account also required, but I'll put it on the follow list because I am a sucker for collectible card games. Next we have a game called Deep States VR, which looks like it's probably an asset flip game that's trying to sell itself as a kind of altered mental state generator. $10.67. Let's see. Here we have My Friend Stalin, which is clearly a joke desktop character. 69 cents. Wonder how many games are labeled as 69 cents just for the meme. Yeah, at a certain point I think Steam should say you cannot sell things for 69 cents. Here we have a game called Oniro, which looks like it's a dungeon crawler of no real quality, for $4.49. Here we have a game called Lightning Fast, which seems like it lets you play as a cheetah, but it's mostly negative already. Early access, English full audio. Let's see what the negative reviews say. No instructions, needs lots of work. Clearly in alpha. It's a shame because the idea is not terrible to play as a big cat chasing after gazelles and such. I'd be willing to put this on the fall list, even though it's mostly negative, just because it is labeled as early access. Like, I'll give it more than it really deserves as far as a chance, and see if maybe they actually improve it. I doubt it, though, because you generally don't tend to put out a bad game in early access, even. That bad of a game. Here we have a game called Color Souls, which seems like it is a parkour platformer game where you have to shoot out color to see the platforms, which as a gameplay mechanic that might actually work in a small way, but overall as the only concept it really doesn't work. Seems like you can also smash enemies to paint your path. It also kind of has it feels a little bit like Binding of Isaac in its visual aesthetic, which I suppose there is always a question as to what the next thing, next Binding of Isaac like could be. 3 damage here. Return that to the field. Do 2 damage there. Yeah, we have a game on Steam called Woot, W-O-U-T-E, which looks like it's just a platformer. Yeah, it doesn't really feel like there's enough game here. $1.79 English, allegedly full audio. Here we have 2 brain sides, which, yeah, I would never be able to play this. This is just too complicated a game. Frankly, kind of boring of a game too. Let's see, 89 cents English only. I just couldn't imagine why you'd even want to have to control 2 different things at the same time. It's a very small niche group of people that want to play what would be effectively a co-op game by themselves. Okay.
This'll be a voyage to remember.
Then just end the turn. Let's see. Next game is called Love Tavern, but I can't show it to you because it's full of sexual content, and as I'm quickly seeing in the demo, it's mostly delivering there, or somewhat delivering there. It's little chibi anime monster characters. We'll see if we can show off some of them. So really a lot of the game is going to just be characters in lewd clothing, and the actual game is this, where it is just a tiny tavern clone. You're going to build up more levels and run a tavern / brothel, and the patrons are going to eat at the tavern / sleep with the prostitutes.
Do not seek what is not there.
Let's see.
Let's get this concert rolling.
So yeah, as an actual game, it's early access, coming soon, English full audio, also supporting Chinese, Japanese, and Russian, and Thai.
A fitting end.
When I see an adult-oriented game that tries to be something more than just a visual novel and has like mini games, like there's clearly a cooking mini game here, it does catch my attention a little bit more. But you certainly are basically trying to serve 2 masters in that case, and something tends to always suffer. Okay, well, let's see.
Bathe my blade in your light, oh forest light.
See if this can
The hunt
kill
has
somebody.
only begun.
Life, blossom forth and come to me.
Seriously?
Hail your queen. 100 pardons.
Now a little quicker.
Hmm.
Go ahead and play for now,
Hey,
fairies.
let's play.
I think that worked about as good as it could. Next we have a game on Steam called Spectral Ascension, which looks like it's a Chinese RPG game, although it's tagged as an action 3D fighter battle royale game.
I present you.
There definitely is something to the idea of knowing that you're not even going to go that long in a stream that is kind of nice. It's like I don't feel as rushed. I don't feel like I have to move as fast. This game is free to play, online PvP only, English only. Of course, I could be also tricking myself, and there could be a lot more here. Here we have a game called Chiasm. It's almost like it's supposed to be chasm, but misspelled. Seems to me like the graphics here are a little too rough, and the gameplay seems to be a little too simplistic. $1.99 English only. It's just not pretty enough visually. Next we have LDS as Lucid Dream Simulator, which is clearly just an asset flip weird game for $4.99. Let's see. What do we want to do? I think you have to do
I
this.
shall give birth to a new world.
And then go ahead and kill that too.
In their scent.
I suppose I've lost some of my edge.
Foul forces
Here
of
we have a
darkness,
game
bow
called
before my
Hogue the
tempest.
Lord, which looks like it's a fantasy RPG game. Looks a little rough, a little kiddie, but maybe there's something to it. Early access, or there will be something to it. Early access $10.99, English only. Seems like
Wind, grant them courage.
you're raising hogs. So half RPG, half farming simulator. Kind of like Stardew Valley. I'll give it a chance, but I suspect it's not much of anything. Alright, well, there's no way to get around this, so you're gonna have to just do that. And then do that. And that. And that.
Dear wind.
Thus the world
And do that.
begins.
Next, we have a game called Star Slide. We may have already talked about this game. This is a very confusing looking game. I guess it's you just push boxes one way or the other to get from point A to point B. I've seen it similar games like this. 59 cents, English only. Next, we have a game called Aries and Zack. Seems like you play as a bird. Looks a little low detail in its low polygonness, but I will say, while there's a lack of polish or like anti-aliasing going on in these screenshots, by zooming out and being low polygon, I think they probably are going in the right direction. But it certainly doesn't really work. Like, these circus tents look like a 90s game would animate something. But I guess I may be completely wrong here, and maybe they should be way more zoomed in. to show whatever detail you have. $8.99 English and Chinese. I guess I will give this a chance. Right, did this cost 5? Did this cost 5? No. I'm hoping this kills that.
It was an act of love.
Alright. And then
Go, Rydo! I know.
I won't let you get away.
Nothing personal, but die.
Howl cyclones! Devour the land!
do that. And then do that. And then do that. And then play that.
Let's play.
I'll put Ares and Zack on the fall list, give it a chance. Next, we have a game on Steam called World in Diner, which just looks like it's a half restaurant, half farming game. And I just don't think that's the style of game for me. It does seem like it may have more complexity to it than your normal
Don't
tavern running game or farming game. $14.99 English and Japanese. I can see the beginning of the end already. Alright, so we need to do 6 damage. Which first we can do that to kill that. And then
Bathe my
can
blade
do
in your
this.
light, oh forest life.
Put this on the field.
Transcends the passage of time.
Feel like I'm probably gonna lose here. Be nice if they just conceded.
On your guard.
Nice marksmanship.
Of course. No surprise there. No surprise there at all that I didn't win. 2 victories is still way better than what we normally do, so won't be too upset about that. Although weirdly, now everything resets. So we go back to the load screen. Load back in. Are we going to be able to get 10 new packs? Yes, we are. So yeah, I really goofed. Ooh, the special event gives you 10 new packs of any expansion. So, like, I've opened 0 of Darkness Evolved. It would definitely make a lot more sense to have done that. Alright, I guess we do this. These will be at least new cards. Plus, the drop rate probably isn't any different, but it would be really nice if it was way higher. Like, at this point, an old expansion should give you just like one of every card in your first draw. Yep. Did get a legendary. Ruthless Assassin. Yeah, that definitely feels like a card that would not be made today by their new, more kid-friendly attempt to animate characters. I even wonder about that as far as these mobile gacha game I play, Destiny Child, which is very scantily clad loot outfits. Is sometimes when there's a new expansion out, like the most recent character added, it's not particularly as scantily clad as some of the previous art. So seems like you always get a kind of bait and switch scenario that seems to happen. Right. So in that case, the extras were just 6 extra bronze cards. And if we were to come down and go to Darkness Evolved, I believe we got 1 new card there, a new card there, a new card there. We only really want 1 of each, but it's still fairly better to open a pack. 1 there, 1 there. 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there. 1 there, and 1 there. 1 there, and an animated 1 there, or 2 there. 1 there. 1 there, 1 there, 1 there. 1 there. 1 there, 1 there. This is actually a very good card, too. It's a shame you can't really play it in rotation. Right, yeah. So then we are back to private match. Join a private match. And let's see, 2, 7, 9, 1, 4. Let's see if that works. Create a deck. Swordcraft.
Ready for action.
And again, not really a lot of reason to kill yourself trying to pick cards. Just pick something and play. Mostly just try and keep the cheapest cards you can in your deck. Just kind of picking cheap cards, that's all I'm really doing. There we go, we're ready. And see, this one's only up to 12, and I took that fairly slowly even. So we'll cover some more games. Here we have Toho Bunkacho, or Cho, which is obviously a shoot 'em up game. English not supported, $10.99, Japanese only. Here we have a game called Masters of Miracles, which looks like nothing. $1.79, English and Chinese. Here we have a game called Dreamtime, which it looks like a low frame rate game. $7.99, English and Chinese. I think I kind of want to dismiss it. It does visually look a little bit different, but I just don't think there's really a game here. I guess it's teetering on the line enough that it deserves a follow. Yeah, we can see this guy's slowly getting to where he needs to be. Next we have a game called Evening Starter, which is some kind of RPG game, JRPG, although it Looks like it's got a lot of dialogue in it. Dungeon Crawler JRPG 1349, English, Japanese, and
Time for me
Chinese.
to prove myself.
I'll put it on the follow list, but this is really not my style of game, so I don't think so. Particularly since I don't think this is a like well-known, obvious JRPG that's like a classic or anything. Here we have a game called Idol Roboto. Looks like nothing. $2.59. Might and Magic 10. I will talk about this story because I saw this on Reddit. Ubisoft is shutting down the servers for Might and Magic 10, which means you cannot play past a certain point in the game at all. So they're basically crippling it because of an always online service. Speaking of always online, Back for Blood is always online, which kind of makes sense. I mean, there probably will be a single player content there, but I doubt seriously there's going to be a major focus of that. So I can't complain too much about a game that is focused and designed for you to be able to play online, for it to be always online. Although we would like to see in both of those cases a patch added to the game so it can be played offline. There is still a decent number of people that for one reason or another can't always be online or don't want to always be online. And that audience deserves to be paid attention to. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Brainland, which looks like it is a kind of weird Chinese game of some sort. Like, feels like it's little mini games, almost like Wario World games, if Wario World games were more normal. This is free. Apparently has to be played in VR.
Carry on.
Next we have VR Plant Journey, not to be confused with VR Planet Journey. $17.99. Requires VR, English and German. Not really seeing anything here of great interest, but it might be somewhat educational. So I think I'd give it a follow just to see if people come back and say, oh yeah, this really is educational, or not. Here you can see in this demo they have a kid wearing the VR headset, and he's not wearing the safety straps on the handsets. So immediately it also shows the risk of letting kids play play a VR headset, play VR. Oh, I should also say a mod tool has been released to make Super Mario World, as the ROM of Super Mario World, modded so that it will support widescreen, SNES emulator HD version will also support the widescreen to play back that ROM after that point.
Ride or die.
It's an interesting idea, but I would like to see that whatever technology was done to make it work for Super Mario World, I'd like to see that technology become much more generalized so that it can do it with all known officially released ROMs of a platform like the Super NES. We know that, well, I know that in the way that Super Mario Brothers showed itself,
Will anybody
like Super Mario Brothers drew lines on the right side of the screen that you couldn't see and was like preloading them in, and it was kind of unloading them out on the left side of the screen. So there was a little bit more to be shown. Plus, you could theoretically have so much extra run ahead time in which you're rendering 4 or 5 frames ahead of the actual game, that you could potentially run a simulation in the background to show what would happen if the character walked to the left to get to the border on the left, and what it would show on the right to get the border on the right. But it also might be fairly easy just to change the code so it does depict itself. What this isn't is it's not just scaling up to a widescreen, it's not taking a 4:3 ratio image and just scaling it up to a higher to a 16:9.
Right this way, please.
That technology had already existed for a long time. Can't take more than 4 damage.
Ryder and Steed, advance as one.
I'm gonna fuse that guy, I guess, into the card.
For victory!
Next, we have a game on Steam called Daffy Fish, which looks like it's just Flappy Bird but underwater. $1.99. Yeah, I suppose there are just now going to be some news stories that I'm just gonna mention because I saw them on Reddit or some other news source. And I want to go back to Tech Raptor, and it's gonna take me a while to get around to try and finding a new video game news source who would report on those. And most mainstream video game journalist sites won't ever report on any progress as far as emulation or ROMs or anything like that. I think it is also worth mentioning somewhat that the 3 people who left Giant Bomb East before E3 happened, and I didn't even hear about it because they weren't probably allowed to promote their new venture. They all started a new Twitch/YouTube group called Nextland, I believe is what it's called. Yeah, I think it's called Nextland, or not Techland. Although it might be called Techland. Don't even really care about this enough to pick the right cards. But yeah, the only notable thing is that they didn't really talk any further in depth as to why they left and started a new organization, but them coming back and immediately not even taking a break from doing E3 coverage, which their E3 coverage was basically exactly the same as the E3 coverage from Giant Bomb. So it couldn't have been laziness. The only other thing I can assume is that they brought in the former employees, Scoops and I think Alex Walker was the other character, that they, I believe, are have their own group called Wayland. And so if I was to put odds on wild speculation, it seems like Scoop and the two heavy SJW employees that were outspoken SJW employees and were not allowed at really any point back, although I think Alex Walker, if that's actually his name, did come back on special like seasonal events, like during Christmas break or something. He would do special events, but he didn't come back with any regularity to actually talk about video games. But they were definitely back for the stream, so it's important to remember or know or realize that the people who left Giant Bomb were secretly SJWs, but they were capable of keeping their mouths shut enough to avoid any major controversies other than the fact that they literally were blacklisting people and heavily involved in Gamergate, even though they managed to stay away from it, from the forefront of it, with their gaming journals pros blacklist. So yeah, money and odds are is that Nextland will be the source where you'll get more SJW coverage of video games, but probably not that much coverage of video games at all. And I would say who you're really getting there is the main guy in charge. I assume he's in charge again, and still is a depressive character that should not be in the gaming industry at all because he worked in the video game development field, so it's unethical on that part. And he really just drums, like, or that's what he was doing on Giant Bomb East. And if he doesn't continue to do drumming live streams, then there might be an argument that he was the linchpin fired employee because he wasn't actually making any video game content at all. Otherwise, under him you have Vinny, who doesn't really have a lot of gaming coverage that he makes. And then you have Brad, I believe is his name, who was most notably known for a long time ago falling asleep during Giant Bombcast, and so they put him in charge of running and asking the questions and just guiding the show, so he would just not fall asleep in the middle of it. And he doesn't make a lot of content either. So if Nextland has three employees there, they're all pretty bad employees. They're old, so they're not going to churn out the new content like Giant Bomb seems like they want to. And their opinions and expertise is not particularly that good. Now, saying all that and being down on Nextland, I'm not much better on Giant Bomb. Like, this doesn't really make me all of a sudden this new revelation on the story, which we'll probably never know the full truth to extended truth to it. There's the new Giant Bomb is still going to be fairly boring and dull unless they can really turn it around and start to cover a lot more games. Giant Bomb also seems like they have brought back Danny O'Dwyer, even though I suspect he won't really make that much content either.
Paying so much for that axe.
And they've said they were going to bring in a bunch of contractors, for lack of a better term, to write about a lot more games, and we'll see what happens there. The problem with this concept of Giant Bomb getting back to games and covering a lot more games is they're announcing this right at the time when there are not any games to really review or announce. They would have to kind of admit their oversights and start looking at a lot of older games too.
The world
Like
cycles
there's
on.
clearly 2 decades, maybe even more, in which something like Giant Bomb has existed, in which they've and they need to go through that timeline and look at the long list of games they didn't cover, which a lot of those will be JRPGs and Japanese focused games. Next we have a game on Steam here called Smack It Hamster, which just looks like a mobile game ported. Early access $2.99, English only. Here we have a game called Play a Ball, which looks like a low frame rate Marvel game. Yep, it's just not animated well. Early access, Chinese only, $3.99. That's fairly expensive for what that is. Here we have a game called Serve 1v3 or Survive. It's rated very positively. This is part of the problem with Back 4 Blood 2 is that, Back 4 Blood also is that pretty much any no-name developer publisher could make something that is a Left 4 Dead clone, and we know of at least 2 AAA games that are also going down that direction. This is a VR game, $24.99, so that's a little bit different. But is it single player playable? I will say also, having mostly finished Left 4 Dead 2 at this point, the AI is terrible in Left 4 Dead 2. It's only slightly better than Left 4 Dead 1's AI. There's just
A frozen mind, a frozen body.
a major
There's a lot more where that came from.
amount of there's just a major amount of
I lost you.
lacking in polish as far as what the AIs can do in Left 4 Dead 2. Like, they can't pick up grenades, they can't throw grenades, they often won't pick up weapons or health kits. They often will shoot enemies that they should know not to shoot because they're too powerful. That's a whole gameplay mechanic where they have the witch character, and you're not supposed to shoot and startle the witch, and yet they very often will unless you run right past the witch very quickly so the other players don't decide to shoot it.
Order takes flight for a peaceful tomorrow.
Ready to witness my true strength?
Injustice must
Interesting,
be cut
that
at
went
the
from an
source.
11-8
The
to
scales are
an
disturbed.
8-11
Ooh, that's cold.
when it evolved. Next we have a game on Steam here called Drop Blocks, which looks like nothing of interest. $7.64, English only. Let's see, we have a visual novel / shooter, first person shooter called Bishoujo Monkyo Kyotowaru to Mikyu no Sojo. That's a mouthful to say the least. What's funny is it says it's a first person shooter, but I don't really feel like it is. Rated very positive. Unfortunately, English not supported. Full Japanese and Chinese only. Animation looks decent. Okay. Do we have anything here? We can do that.
Wait, what?
And then we'll go ahead and get rid of
I
that.
live to create a draconic paradise.
And then
I live to create a draconic paradise.
see if we can win here. Like to win, although it doesn't really matter.
Mercy for the
Here we have a game called Black Space, which looks like a space shooter, top-down shooter, free to play, English only. Here we have a game called Grey Death. I feel like there was a game called Grey something before, but I don't think it has anything any connection to this game. This looks like a nothing game, like a 90s game. Also a dark screenshot game for no reason. Free, English only. Here we have a game called Mouse Hunter, which to me looks like it's probably something like a Minesweeper type game, except for with a mouse that moves around, so slightly different, but not that different. $5.99. Okay. What do we want to do? Storm is not, it's too early. Don't want to really play that. Do that.
I'll hit the vanguard.
And we'll do that. Meanwhile, are we gonna die? Maybe. So let's kill that just for safety. See. Next, we have a game on Steam called Breath of the Spirits, which looks like it's a VR archery game, but it's tagged as an online co-op game. 1424 online co-op as an option. Maybe that's not MMO though, so online co-op might work. Although this also might be nothing. And it does feel like they've got just a pre-purchased asset of a big busted elf here as their main character, so that does not speak to a real high quality game. But I'll put it on the follow list and we'll see if anybody says anything about it. Next we have a game called Solace, which seems like it's almost a walking simulator to some kind of Zen Buddhist Shintoist type concept. It definitely is different, so there might be something here. $15.99 VR game. Okay, we'll give it a follow. Let's see. If I play this now, that lowers everything. And I basically have to play this. I want to survive, I basically have to kill that. Should have attacked that. Here we have a game on Steam called Beat the Mons, which looks like nothing. Free to play, single player only. What language is it? English and Chinese. Here we have a game called The Little Tank Hunter, which looks like nothing. It's $4.79. Here we have a game called Imaginaria, which seems to be mostly a text game. Feels like a text game you would have on a Game Boy. It's $7.99 English only. I don't think there's enough game here to interest me. Seems far too text-based. Do I have any way of actually surviving here? This would let me do 4 damage.
Vile dragon, repent your wicked deeds.
This would let me kill something.
To disturb my domain, my empress. Sleep with the fishes.
Okay. So hit that.
I paid so much for that axe. Sleep with the
Hit
fishes.
that.
Long live the dragon empress.
Hit
The
that.
resplendent phoenix graces you
Hit
with
that.
her presence.
Hit that. So all he has to do is evolve and he'll win. So yeah, I've lost. Here we have a game on Steam called Combined Army Operations Series, which looks like a generic army sim. $19.99 English only. Definitely not my type of game. Next we have a game on Steam called Selection Process, which doesn't look like anything, just an asset flip, low polygon game. $5.99. Yeah, I don't think in this stream I'll probably even finish this arena run. I think I'll just do all of this off screen at this rate. Next we have a game on Steam called Snowboarding, which is low polygon. It's far too low polygon to make it to the follow list. $1.19 English, allegedly full audio. Next we have a game that's all Chinese characters. I don't know why the entire screen blanked like that, but okay, that was weird.
Bow before Dark Dragoon, ruler of the skies.
Yeah, I don't know, my TV is blinking for some reason. Whatever this game is, it just looks like an RPG game. Chinese only, free to play. Let's see, next we have a game on Steam called Cactus Cowboy, fully loaded, which looks like nothing. Free VR game. Oh, nope. Yeah, it is VR. English, allegedly full audio. I'm seeing a lot of VR games. I wonder if that has to do with the amount of demos that were released for the next fest. Next we have PPL, the animated adventure, which haven't seen the Pepe meme in a while. It's been probably a year or two. Yeah, looks like there's nothing really here as far as this frustration platformer joke game. $4.79 English, allegedly full audio. in the turn. Next, we have a game on Steam called The Sisters Party of the Year. And the first thing I notice here is you have like a real, like, trailer. This actually feels like it's a girl-focused game with some polish here. It seems almost like it is a Mario Party game if you were to just tweak Mario Party a little bit to be more girl-friendly or girl-focused. $25.49, English and French full audio. Now the funny thing is, the sisters, if there's any cartoon, like French cartoon or comic book or anything, it's tagged as comic book. I've never heard of it, but this definitely deserves to be on the fall list. Now, the downside here is that we could very easily find that it just plays terribly. And if that's the case, then we'll see negative reviews. Or we're going to run into a situation where it never gets reviewed at all, and then there's a relevancy issue, and I'd have to almost make a special exception to potentially purchase it and check out the game, just because I'm always desperately looking for kid-friendly games and particularly girl-friendly games. Two different desires there, but next we have a game called Marionette Lab, which is a fixed camera angle like Resident Evil 1 puzzle game, which I definitely would need to play Resident Evil 1 before I play something like this, because this feels way too generic in its assets that it's flipping. But I don't want to immediately dismiss this either. $3.99, English and Russian. There are enemy robots that you have to shoot. I think I still have to dismiss this. The visuals are just too rough here. Right.
Vile dragon, repent your wicked deeds.
Hey!
Play points cannot be lost now.
There's a lot more where that came from.
Pierce him through magnificent.
Next, we have a game on Steam here called Shot Kill, which looks like a shooter game. It's not particularly inspiring any real interest, though. I'm not even sure if you're shooting zombies or what. Seems like you're shooting monsters of some sort. Yeah, I think that's just too generic a name, and this is just too generic of a no-name game from a no-name company to actually compete against other first-person shooters, AAA first-person shooters. $5.94, English full audio. 2 damage. Make it cost less.
Hey!
See. Next, we have a game on Steam called Final Pilot, which just looks like a space shooter game. Early access, free to play. Third-party account for PlayFab. English only. It's funny, they're labeling it as Microsoft Azure PlayFab. Does Microsoft own PlayFab now? I feel like maybe I have seen some news about that. Next, we have a game called The Legends in Kailamar. It looks just like it's an RPG game. $10.49, English only. Next we have a game called Void Explorer, which looks like MS Paint level graphics. 99 cents, English only. Let's see. Envisioncommunity.co.uk says War Pips is receiving its first major content update. If you're interested in War Pips, check it out. They also have an article here that 64% of US adults are video game players now. Which, okay. That seems frankly a little low, if anything. But it makes sense. Let's see.
I'm the strongest axe wielder in the sky.
Hit that.
Hey!
Hit that. Let's see, Gamma Sutra has a blog point here. Level of detail, quick tutorial. As far as why do you need a level of detail, as far as why there's less anti-aliasing in the background versus here. That's why there's some jagginess that I can see on this line where it's much more of a straighter line here. And here's an example of different amount of frames for level of detail, the number of triangles to depict something. This is definitely an inside baseball programming type blog, and you'd have to really read it all, but you might get a general overview understanding of about what level of level of detail is all about.
Wings are unbreakable. Don't let me down.
Oops. I could have evolved that and probably won. Here we have a game on Steam called Hunt Feast. I assume that says feast. Yeah. It's not fest, is it? No, fest is F-E-S-T. That is Hunt Feast.
We've got it all.
It's an interesting name. Early access, $15.99, English, full audio, third-party EULA. There might be something to this. There's a high chance it isn't. It's just your standard run around, shoot werewolves games. It's a little interesting so far. We haven't seen a Left 4 Dead game while you're fighting werewolves yet. Next, we have a game on Steam called Anti-Prism, which
Do not seek what is not
looks like a
there.
space shooter game. Looks a little bit prettier than a lot of the other space shooter games, but it's still not my type of game. It's a VR game, $15.29. Lots of VR games today. Let's see.
A fitting end.
Yep. I guess I lost and would have lost anyways. Next, we have a game on Steam called Industries of Titan, which looks like it's a city builder simulation.
Do this
Looks fine.
together, Mr.
I'm just not really interested in playing those types of games either. I have a clearly growing list of types of games I don't want to play. $23.99, English full audio.
This victory is a testament to your strength.
Here we have a game called Anagraphs, an anagram with a twist, which you twist the words. Interesting. Free. That's interesting that the game is free. Free with open source on GitHub. It was developed by an educational nonprofit project. Alright, well, I guess the price is right there, so I'm gonna just put that on the wish list, and if I ever have need to cover a free game, that'll be one to cover. Yeah, and there's no way I'm finishing this Grand Prix run without just 3 very quick disconnects. I've been kind of anxiously watching, or trying to watch, the careers of the Digipin students who were hired out of college to make Portal 1. And frankly, it's been pretty pathetic as far as their careers. They all were handed the golden goose by working with Valve, and then that let them make Portal 1 and Portal 2, which are arguably 2 of the best games ever. But then they worked for Valve, or they left Valve and went on and did nothing else with their lives. So, like, it's been probably 10 years since Portal 2 came out. There's no likeliness of a Portal 3 coming out anytime soon. None of the other 5 or 6 students that were working on that project that eventually became Portal, what was it called, Narvacular Drop or something like that, none of them have really gone and done anything else. I think one of them went on to be the CEO of a mobile phone company or something like that, or a high management position of a mobile phone company, a mobile game company. But that's pretty much it. And yeah, it would have probably suited them a lot better for them to have worked at any other major company or even minor company, just so they were constantly working, constantly refining their game development abilities, and that they weren't just allowed to stagnate at Valve. And that is the problem. Like, personally, if Valve offered me a job, I'd probably take it, because I'm fairly stagnant in my programming anyways, and I'm probably too old that I'd ever catch up with the new generation of programmers. It would be a great place to try and just get your tenure, for lack of a better term, and retire. But new hires, people fresh out of college, don't work at Valve. Generally don't work at Valve at all, but particularly if you want to have a career and leave any kind of mark on the video game community at all. The only thing I guess I could phrase it is that they did manage to almost perform the impossible by making Portal and Portal 2 before their career effectively ended. Let's just go ahead and play this.
You commanded my empress. Sleep with the fishes.
Anyways, the actual article from Gamma Sutra here is that the Portal lead designer Kim Swift is now working at Xbox Game Studios publishing. So the question here will be, will she actually make some great deals publishing things, or will she disappear and never be heard of again for several years? She most recently was the game designer director at Stadia Games, and now Stadia Game Studios has been shut down, so now she's working for Microsoft. She also worked at EA, Amazon, and Airtight Games. She spent over 4 years working at Valve, where she served as the project lead and lead designer on Portal, and also contributed to Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2 as a designer and artist. Let's see. Gamma Sutra also has an article here. EA is letting FIFA Ultimate Team players preview loot boxes for a limited time, which I assume previewing them is a way of saying you can see what's inside of them, but what I have seen in scenarios where you could preview and see what's inside the loot box, there's no way to skip a loot box in that case. So you can see what's inside, but if you're ever going to open another loot box again, you still have to open that loot box as it is. So it is a effectively useless feature. Here we have a game on Steam called Dr. Bite, which looks like it's a top-down hack and slash, but it doesn't really feel like that with that background. It feels like he's just floating in the air. But I suppose he's supposed to be a top-down hack and slash game. 99 cents, English only. Next we have Love in Belarus, which I think is probably a joke game. Half visual novel, half joke, half RPG. $1.19, English and Russian. Yeah, that definitely feels like a Russian troll game. Let's see.
I live to create a draconic paradise.
Ready to witness my true strength?
Let's see. Get rid of that. Still didn't work. Next we have a game called Cat Dungeon Escape, which looks like it's a puzzle game / platforming game where you rotate the gravity.
Want to play?
Yeah, I don't think there's enough here. I've seen this before.
Soon be dead.
$1.69 English only. Let's see how many levels it is.
You are mine.
50 levels is a little too low. And the concept's a little too simple. And then we have a Gemetsu rumor that a Dead Space revival is in development at EA Motive. 3 sources indicate a new title is on their way. There should be a new Dead Space, certainly, but is it going to be more like Dead Space 1 and 2, or is it going to be like Dead Space 3? Have they learned their lesson, or are we going to just get the same thing over and over again?
Step up. The world cycles on.
And with that brings me back to my main Twitter feed. So I'm just going to scroll down my main Twitter feed. This will be the last game we play. And that's going to be it for the stream. We're going to end at 2 hours, which is way better than what I figured we would get.
You have angered me. I've been keeping this in reserve. I'll blast my way through.
Let's see. So yeah, I'm scrolling down my Twitter feed.
Come to me.
Apparently, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 was the most tweeted about during E3, according to Gamma Sutra.
I'll split you in two. And roll vengeance.
There's a lot more where that came from.
Dragons reign by divine right. Obstruct me not.
YouTube creator tweets it out. Like other media, YouTube videos reflect and shape culture by creating inclusive content. You can help counter stereotypes and reduce biases. Ready to explore how you can make your videos more inclusive? Here's how to get started. That's a really high demand on a lot of YouTube. There's a really high demand on YouTube content creators. Like, since most YouTube channels from small time content creators is them and their personality, the idea to say you've got to include more other people is a huge demand. And if they really wanted more inclusion in YouTube videos, they wouldn't have basically ruined the idea of collaborations. And they've always kind of pushed collaborations, but they've never really rewarded collaborations. According to Gamma Sutra, PlayStation boss Jim Ryan wants more games to support crossplay if they pay him, is my addition to that headline. Activision Blizzard has passed an exec pay package with support of 54% of the shareholders. I wonder how much of the shares are held in the hand of Bobby Kotick himself, who is getting the pay raise. I bet if he was eliminated from voting because of a conflict of interest, he would probably not have passed. Let's see. So yeah, I'm gonna just scroll down. I'm trying not to have a lot of stuff left for Wednesday, but honestly, having a lot of stuff left for Wednesday would be fine. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but the YouTuber The Completionist has moved over to G4, and from my perspective, that is probably the first big get as far as their additions. That being said, there is a problem, in my opinion, with The Completionist in that he does basically the same jokes over and over again, playing the kind of the same games over and over again. He's kind of slow because he's playing the games to 100% completion, and that takes up a lot of time, and that is a very different experience, certainly, than what most video game journalists do. So I don't know if he's going to put out a lot of content, or if they're going to find a lot of content for him to be able to put out. And then I guess I'll just end on this Gamma Sutra job listing that GenVid is hiring a senior producer in California, Washington, or New York, USA. Is there a city called California in the state of Washington, or is this supposed to be California, Washington inserted at Oxford, or New York, USA? Or frankly, this should be semicolon at that point, I think, or parentheses, USA. Anyways, if anybody is upset that this is only 2-hour live stream, I'll be very shocked. Seems like my live streams go way too long, if anything. But that's going to be it for this one. I've got a lot of work to do, both off-screen playing Shadowverse while also paying attention to Amazon Prime Days. The good news is that the Prime Days will be done with by Wednesday, and I'll be back to just making video game content to the best of my limited ability. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.